Hey guys, how are you doing? This is Rob of Rule of Two Review. Welcome back to the channel. And a couple of days ago, on Christmas Day actually, I uploaded a video that was discussing the concept of what Nintendo might be doing with the Nintendo Switch in a world where their next console turned out to be just another regular home console. Nothing fancy, nothing hybrid or portable about it, just a regular box that sits under your TV and plugs into your TV and uses some kind of controller, something Nintendo might make really weird and wacky, or something that they might do normal, like just a Pro controller. Who even knows? But I discussed the idea of, after that happened, if Nintendo made the Switch just kind of their newer version of the 3DS, or the equivalent of the 3DS within that business model, whereas their next generation machine would be just their home console, and the Switch would be their machine that, yes, can be played on a TV, but might also become kind of more of an overall portable focus to kind of cover that handheld market. It was a really fun conversation, it was a really fun video, and it was just for the sake of discussing the possibility. It wasn't about saying anything was going to factually happen, or that anyone should prefer Nintendo does one thing over another. It was literally just a concept to put the idea out there, because it was a holiday and there wasn't really a lot of news going on. And I got a lot of, positive response and positive reaction. A lot of people liked the idea or agreed with it. Some people definitely disagreed with it, but still were very nice about how they mentioned maybe something different would happen. I don't know if what you're saying makes sense. Maybe Nintendo goes this route. And then a small selection of people were weirdly really upset about it. I mean, they were like mean and just not happy with the very concept of something totally made up from my head just for the sake of starting a discussion. They were very upset about it. And some of the running themes I saw through some of the very, small selection of kind of nasty and mean comments about it was the idea of people thinking that Nintendo would just never ever consider just a regular home console ever again. And part of me found that response very surprising, and part of me didn't find it very surprising, because I've obviously gotten to know a lot of the larger gaming community and Nintendo community through doing YouTube for so long, and also just being a lifelong gamer, to tell you the truth. And you kind of learn how to expect how people might react, and when people might be willing to disagree with you but still be, nice and cordial about how they explain their differences, and when people are just going to say, oh, there's no way, it's entirely wrong, it's only the way I think, Nintendo will never make another home console again, you're so stupid for even bringing the idea up, you kind of learn to expect when people are going to be that way about something. And so anyway, I'm not here to complain about the fact that some people disagreed with me vehemently, or the fact that some people were even kind of crappy in comments. I mean, that happens on every video you make, no matter who you are, no matter if you're in the gaming space or the music space or the sports space or whatever. Just that's fine. I don't care about that, other than the fact that it was just a window into how people are thinking and some of the ideas going on out there, which is part of the reason I made the video, was what conversations will crop up from me putting this concept out there. And the fact that a lot of people think Nintendo would never again make a home console, like I said, did carry some level of surprise for me, I mean, I thought that for sure some people would think Nintendo would eventually maybe be willing to do it. I even stated at the end of my video how obviously my theory could be wrong, and, maybe Nintendo isn't planning on making a next home console, or if they are, it could be the very next generation as their home console, or it could be something that they're not going to do for the next 20 years, but obviously it could happen at some point. And so obviously what I'm trying to do here today is kind of continue this conversation a little bit, because I think people's reaction to Nintendo making another traditional home console is something that was important to take note of, and it got me thinking about it. I mean, I guess I'll just go ahead and state to you guys, I'm going to just double down on part of what I was saying, in the sense that I do think Nintendo very likely could eventually make another regular home console again. And I don't know why people would think that that's such an impossibility. I mean, if you think about it, the fact that people think Nintendo will never do it again is one of the number one reasons why we should believe they might do it again. Because every time any of us tries to predict what Nintendo's going to do. And when I say any of us, I mean any of us. I don't mean just YouTubers and content creators. I mean YouTubers and non-YouTubers, just gamers and Nintendo fans. Whenever we, the collective we, try to predict or guess what Nintendo is going to do, it's almost impossible to do. Like, you can't predict what they're going to do. They're always throwing curveballs, and so maybe their current curveball is to create this new sort of business model in the hybrid Nintendo Switch thing that it is, and be very successful with it. And so, of course, we all start to think, well, this is what Nintendo is going to do forever. They're only ever going to do this one thing, which, by the way, is also something Nintendo never does. They never pick one thing and just do that one thing forever. They're always changing. And so, you know, people thinking, oh, they're just going to make Nintendo Switch hybrid handhelds forever and ever, or maybe become a handheld-only company, and that's all that they're going to do. And because of that, because of Nintendo maybe tricking some of those people, that opens up the window for them to be like, psych, you thought we were going hybrid forever, but we're not. Here's another home console. Now, I also get how some people might say, yes, Rob, Nintendo never does the same thing twice, and they're always trying to trick us, and they're hard to predict. But because they've already been making home consoles in the past, they would never do it again because it would be them going backwards or going back in time to something that they've already done. And so maybe that's the reason some people think Nintendo won't do it. And to that, I'll say, it's a reasonably fair point. I understand the point, and it's probably not entirely crazy. I mean, maybe that's a reason that all of my theories are wrong. Everything about the Switch and the 3DS, and everything about Nintendo making a home console again. Yeah, they might not ever make a home console again. I think that's part of what I wanted people to get from the last video, and also this video. They might not do it. All I'm trying to do is discuss the fact that we should absolutely keep our minds open to the possibility that they do it. And maybe some of you guys out there won't agree with this, but I will state that for me, I would not even see that as a bad thing. I wouldn't see that as so regressive and so backwards thinking that Nintendo has just suddenly become devoid of ideas and innovations. I don't think that's the case. I think that, you know, going a certain amount of time or years or generations or whatever without making just a traditional old regular box, like the GameCube was the last time that they did that, right? In 2001, by the way, the Wii and the Wii U and the Switch are all very different machines with unique ideas that aren't exactly traditional home consoles, even though, yes, the Wii and the Wii U are almost that, but they obviously have huge changes to their controller interface and their user interface. But, like, the last time they made just a regular box competing in power with a regular, you know, standard controller for that time was the GameCube in 2001. And I just think that while Nintendo might never do that again, I think that they might, and I don't think it would be necessarily a bad thing. I mean, if they do a bad job, if they make a poor product and it doesn't compete the way it needs to compete and they can't get the right games on board and it doesn't really sell very well or whatever they might do wrong, that's Nintendo's mistake to own, then it would be a mistake. But just the idea, I want to say, is what I don't think is bad by default. It's not inherently bad for them to do that because there's something to be said for the fact that it's been the overall industry standard since home video game consoles. Like, it has been. You just buy a box, you plug it to your TV, and it is what it is, and you have your controller and just go. And I think that Nintendo's been incredibly successful with that. My two favorite Nintendo consoles of all time are the Nintendo 64 and the GameCube. Just normal-ass consoles that just plug into your TV. But they had great games, and I liked the controllers at their time. And they were great. And so, like, if Nintendo wanted to do that again, I think that there's something to it. And because people are so used to them trying Wii remotes and gamepads and hybrid Switches, that might be their surprise to be like, gotcha! Here's just another regular home console. Here's a list of the Nintendo-y things we're doing with this, but it's not a hybrid, it's not a portable, it's not gonna, you know, bake bread for you and also change the tire on your car while also allowing you to play the brand new Mario game. No, it's just a home console that lets you play video games the Nintendo way. The other part of the conversation would be that in doing a traditional home console again, Nintendo would probably or maybe be also chasing power and graphics again. And a lot of people just hate that idea. They think it's so antithetical to Nintendo. And while I will obviously admit that for 3 generations in a row, Nintendo has absolutely not chased power and graphics 100%. I am not denying that. And they've made 3 great machines that I love. I love the Wii, I loved the Wii U, and I love the Switch. All machines that didn't chase power and weren't trying to be the most technologically advanced on the market in their generation. And I loved those machines. And yes, it's true. They have recently, over the past 2 decades, decided to stop doing that. And it's been great. It's been very smart for Nintendo. They've saved a ton of money. They've carved out a very awesome, specific, unique niche for themselves within the industry, which, as I like to say, is one of our favorite qualities about Nintendo. But just like making a home console, to me, isn't inherently bad if it's executed properly, I also think Nintendo chasing graphics and power, again, after a 20-year gap in doing so, by the way, or maybe not 20, 15 years, however long it's been, after a huge gap in time of not doing so, maybe trying to get themselves back into the arms race a little bit and the graphics and power race a little bit is also not inherently bad. Again, provided they execute it well. And so I think that, hopefully people who maybe disagree with a lot of these concepts at least are hearing and understanding the very ideas of something being not inherently bad. I understand if you're just automatically picturing Nintendo makes a home console, Nintendo chases graphics, and they screw it up, and it's bad, and then they never should have done it, so why would they do it? Yeah, if they screw it up, then yes, they've made their own mistake for them to own. But if they don't screw it up, that's where it becomes really cool, and so that's why it's not inherently bad. It's all about Nintendo making one or both of these decisions, home console and chasing graphics, and also executing properly. And Nintendo, come on, you guys, we love Nintendo. They are so smart, they are so savvy, they are so innovative and inventive, and they're always thinking, and they have big ideas, and they're always trying to change the game when they do stuff. I think that we all know if Nintendo ever made these decisions, they're probably going to knock it out of the park. I really want to believe that the Wii U was their last huge, uninformed misstep, at least for a very, very long time. I feel like in this newer era, with a new regime, both in Nintendo of America and Nintendo of Japan, they've got new people running the ship. I feel like they've learned how to maybe not do what they did with the Wii U, and to a degree with the GameCube, even though the GameCube wasn't a complete failure like some people want to tell you. It did fine for itself overall, but they still made obviously some mistakes that made it the least successful console of that generation. I just have a feeling Nintendo's done with that. Look at how smart they are in the Switch era. They figured out marketing, they figured out hardware, they figured out how to just get good games and third parties on board, which is why chasing power does still have value even for Nintendo, for third-party developers and third-party games. They've figured that out in the Switch area. They've been delivering and getting us so many great games on the Switch that are third-party multiplats. You know that they want to continue that, and so the big picture here is that I think it's not crazy to think that Nintendo might, the key word here is might, you guys. Please hear the word might. Nintendo might make a home console again, or they might try to chase graphics again, and it might end up being pretty cool. In fact, let's explore the graphics thing for just a minute, okay? If you're one of the people out there who maybe considers yourself one of these Nintendo purists and Nintendo doesn't do home consoles and they don't chase graphics, they don't need to. They're so amazing, they've been touched by the voice of God. They don't need to do things like such a way. And if you think that, A, that's fine. I don't want to take that away from you, but B, let's picture a next-gen Nintendo machine that can truly compete with the power and graphics and capabilities of the PlayStation 5 and the Xbox Series X, whatever. I mean, just think about it for a minute. Just ruminate on that idea for like 4 seconds. And then start to think about what the next Zelda game could be, or the next Metroid game could be, or the next Mario game, a Mario Odyssey sequel, whatever the case. What about a Pikmin 4 or Pikmin 5? What about a Star Fox? What about Nintendo's first-party games on a console where they haven't really created so many weird, wacky things that they have to focus on that takes them away from just making an amazing, kick-ass game with some of the most beautiful visuals you've ever seen, because graphics are not inherently bad. I'm sorry to tell you guys. Yeah, they don't make a game good by default, but they're also nice sometimes, right? And so, amazing next-generation Nintendo graphics. What would that be like? I mean, I think I speak for a lot of people when I say it would be pretty amazing and pretty exciting. You know, I'm not saying Nintendo's going to change their art direction, but like, think about the GameCube days when the GameCube was a console that was on par with the PlayStation and Xbox of that day, and Nintendo was still chasing power and graphics at that time. We got amazing. People were really excited about how great The Wind Waker looked, and Resident Evil 4 looked, and Beautiful Joe, Super Mario Sunshine, Star Fox Assault, and Star Fox Adventures, Pikmin. I mean, these are games that were exciting, yes, because Nintendo made great games with great gameplay, but they were also, in their day, they were visual and graphical masterpieces. They were blowing our minds because that was technologically advanced and up to par in its day. Same with Mario 64, the generation before on the Nintendo 64. One of the reasons Mario 64 was so groundbreaking and earth-shattering and industry-changing was because of the graphics. The graphics were the best graphics we'd ever seen at that time. Again, the gameplay and the innovation of the N64 controller was there, and that was part of it, but also the freaking graphics. Everyone was excited, and that made it more exciting, and it made it really fun. And so, while graphics, I think, play a different role in the quality of games nowadays, I still don't think it means that they don't matter. And, I mean, again, just think about a new Metroid, a new Mario, a new Zelda, a new Kid Icarus, a new F-Zero, a new Star Fox, a new Pikmin, whatever. Just start naming off Nintendo franchises, a Smash Brothers, a Mario Kart, and picture it on a Nintendo console that is equivalent in power, or at least very close in power, to what we expect a PlayStation 5 to be able to do. I just don't believe that people can't get excited about that. It just doesn't register for me. We can all share the sentiment that graphics don't make games good, and Nintendo doesn't need to chase graphics to be successful or to be good. Yes, that's all true, and I agree. But isn't there also something to amazing graphics? What if Metroid Prime 4, the next Metroid on their big graphics machine, looks better than like God of War on the PlayStation 2? And I'm not saying it has to try to be realistic, but just think of how amazing that is. Nintendo can make games that way if their machines are powerful enough, and maybe they decide that because we've taken such a break from this stuff, let's come back to it. Who knows? I mean, it's just ideas. It's just a matter of keeping the window open in our brains for Nintendo to do this stuff, and sometimes it makes me excited to think about them doing that. But I'll remind you here at the end that still, at the end of the day, none of this is about me saying Nintendo needs to make a home console and Nintendo needs to chase graphics and power again. I obviously don't think that, and hopefully, if you're paying attention, you've been able to glean that throughout this whole conversation where I've weirdly been kind of ranty. I don't really know why I got so set off by it for some reason. I think as I discussed it, I think that my belief in just the willingness to believe it's possible, I guess, just became really strong in me as I talked about it. So, but yeah, I don't need Nintendo to do these things. I love Nintendo's quirky, innovative side. I love the fact that 3 generations in a row, they've been able to make 3 incredible consoles without chasing power. I absolutely love that about Nintendo, you guys, and I don't need it to ever change. This is just about trying to analyze and speculate on the Nintendo of right now and the Nintendo of 2 or 3 years down the road, when I think they might be looking at eventually releasing another machine. Like, that's what the last conversation on Christmas was about the Switch and the 3DS. And that's what this is about. It's just fun to talk about this stuff, you guys. I'm just putting these ideas out there. And I think that some people, it's just, you know, it's a very small selection of people, but your heads are in the sand so deep sometimes that you're just not willing to see a bigger picture. And the fact that people sometimes get so offended at the mere idea of something that doesn't match their brain, they can't just be like, oh, like, I don't really agree and here's why, like a lot of people did. Again, I want to give a lot of credit to the people who just had normal conversations disagreeing with my idea, because that's wonderful. That's what it's about. But the people who just go like, you dummy, meh, like, I'm so mad at you for saying this thing out loud. Like, just calm down, man. And I say that after somebody who kind of ranted in this video, so I get the irony, but just calm down, you guys. Just video games. It's just Nintendo. Nintendo's going to be fine no matter what they do. And let's all just be happy about that, right? That's all we should be happy about. So, with that being said, holy frickin' cow, talk about this below. I'm expecting quite the response to this video. I feel like because I was so heated, I might be getting a lot of downvotes on this video, and that's okay. I still believe everything I said, so I'm just going to have to stand by it here at the end. But I don't know, man. Talk about it. What do you guys think? What do you feel about this idea? Nintendo making a home console, Nintendo chasing power. Is it something that could be in their future in your brain, whether it's, 3 years from now or even 20 years from now? Or do you think, no, Nintendo is done doing both of those things for the rest of eternity? Whatever you think, talk about it below. And with that, this video is a wrap. Thanks, of course, as always, for tuning in, guys. This is Rob of Rule of Two Review, and I'll catch you next time on another video.